All right. I think that we can all agree that last night did not go according to plan. The entire day was just non-stop anxiety, waiting to see who's going to pop a tire next, whose chances of advancing are going to take a serious hit next. And this is the second week in a row where it seems like chaos genuinely had no way of being trapped. And don't get me wrong, I said it myself, I kind of enjoyed last week. I thought it was exciting, and it kept me on the edge of my seat waiting to see what would happen next. But 2 weeks in a row, no, I mean, it can't be an every week thing. And honestly, this week, yesterday felt much worse. It truly seemed like Goodyear had fumbled so bad that the tires were nearly undrivable. So just to kind of touch on, Goodyear's side of the story, Goodyear's claiming that teams are going under the recommended air pressures, and that's what is causing these tires to pop. So there's excuses essentially to blame the teams, and they need to manage their air pressure better. Thing is, that's actually a bigger ask than it sounds. Rodney Childers, the crew chief for Kevin Harvick, who had their day ruined by one of these tires popping when they were leading, posted a detailed explanation on Twitter of what exactly was happening with the tires and why he and other teams were lowering their air pressures. And I'm not a mechanical-minded guy, so a lot of this sounds foreign to me. So I apologize if I kind of botch what he's trying to say. You go read the tweet for yourself. But essentially, he's saying that not being able to adjust things like shocks, the ride height, and just downforce in general, because they are not allowed to adjust these parts on these cars, means they have really only one way to try and create downforce and try to create their own speed legally, and that is through adjusting the air pressures. Rodney also said that Texas, the track itself, amplifies a lot of these issues, which explains why it was so particularly bad on Sunday. Rodney laid out a few different ways that they could make these issues go away, but all of them are currently illegal under the current NASCAR rulebook. Same with some of the safety concerns that have been popping up over the whole year. Teams could fix a lot of these issues with these cars themselves, but they're not allowed to. So drivers and teams are obviously frustrated, but we had a lot of people yesterday blowing up NASCAR on Twitter and berating the sport and everything it stands for pretty much. And don't get me wrong, yesterday was embarrassing. Fans should voice their opinion on this crap because the product was crap that was produced. But whenever Cody Ware popped his tire and went headfirst into the wall at 180 miles per hour, and Gimply got out of his car to only be put on a stretcher and in an ambulance, Twitter exploded with furious assault on NASCAR and their morals being called into question over these cars. And thankfully, Cody was okay, and outside of being sore, he has no damage to his body. But this didn't really help qualm all the outrage, and it's understandable. These cars, while they might still be safe from a fatality standpoint, from a pain standpoint, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Drivers are being really sore the next day whenever they're in wrecks, and it's just stuff that didn't happen before. But I keep hearing the same thing over and over again from fans, and that is that it needs to be fixed right now. Fans are calling for NASCAR to address the problem in the middle of the playoffs with 6 races left in the season. And again, I'm not saying their anger is wrong. I'm just confused at what exactly people are expecting NASCAR to do at this point. Obviously, there's no doubt that this car probably should have been delayed another year. No doubt the actual racing product from this car is significantly better. But there are still just so many bugs that need to be worked out. And when you don't allow the teams to address their issues themselves with these cars, there's nobody else to blame when it all hits the fan. And, NASCAR had already delayed this car a year. There were a lot of testing issues due to COVID. There was a lot of things that were keeping NASCAR from being able to work out a lot of the issues that we are now seeing. And while I feel for them at a certain point because they were put in a difficult position, at the end of the day, if they did overlook safety aspects to push this car out, that's a bad call. Like, there's no other way to say it. That's a bad call. Now, what can they do from here on out? What can they really do to address these issues from this day moving forward, since all the fans are calling for their heads? Well, from what I can see, there's really only two options. Option number one, they could suspend the season until they can work through safety concerns, because all these issues fans want fixed right now can't be fixed overnight. It will take months. It will take the off season, but many seem not willing to let them get to that point. I don't see this happening for many reasons, but the main one I'll highlight is the fact that it would cut into the team's off season. Literally, we'd go from the 2022 season straight into the 2023, and considering drivers and teams already groan and moan about only getting one off week as it is, I'd say they'd rather just risk it for 6 more races. But the number two option, what I think is actually a really reasonable compromise, is for NASCAR to throw their hands up and say, okay, fine, have at it to all the teams with this car. Open up the rule book and allow these changes to be made. Just hand the keys over to the asylum, but allow for the remainder of the year all teams to be able to make personal adjustments like they have in years past. All the ideas Childress had, let him do them. At least then, if something goes wrong, it's not all on the sanctioning body. In the off season, take all the data and all the improved functions from the team and make the adjustments to the car, and then re-implement the staunch rulebook with safety concerns dealt with. In 2023, make it so teams can't interfere with the car parts again, because I love the parity this establishes, but this car is just isn't finished, and it wasn't ready to be rolled out with no adjustments needed. I know changing rules in the middle of the playoffs would be wild, but honestly, it might just call for it at this point, unfortunately. But outside of, Tyler Reddick getting the win, and that really not getting talked about a lot, the next biggest piece of news from yesterday was the bump from William Byron on Denny Hamlin that sent Hamlin spinning and ended any chance he really had at a win. Byron felt justified because Hamlin drove up into him on the exit of turn 2 and he got in the wall. Byron claims he had damage to his car, but he finished 7th, so I'm not really sure what damage was that severe. But Hamlin was obviously not happy and is now vowing revenge on William Byron when the time comes. Now, to me, this whole situation is kind of silly because William Byron did the exact same thing to Joey Logano at the first race of Darlington this year. Actually, maybe a little more egregious because you can clearly see Denny try to get off of him. You can see the flames come out of his exhaust where he lets off the gas, realizing he's too far up the track. And Logano did the same thing Byron did to Denny, bumping him in the butt, just ruining his day, only under green, and costing William Byron a win. Byron got out of his car that day and talked tough and acted like he was going to give Joey a payback, but it's been cricket since. So yesterday, Byron decided he was going to finally grow a backbone and take a man out under caution, and I gotta be honest, I think Byron really messed up here and got his priorities completely out of whack, because if you're not ever going to pay back Joey Logano for what he did to you at Darlington, how are you going to finally decide to grow a pair and act out during this situation? William Byron, he got out of his car, got to his interview, and he stumbled a little bit. I think he was really getting hit with the realization of the issue he just caused, and honestly, Hamlin should probably be the least of his concerns right now, because I have a feeling NASCAR is going to hand down a points penalty to the 24 team, and who knows if that could be enough to take them from their solid sitting position right now to a must-win situation. And it was a move made by a young man who clearly didn't think his actions through and really acted out of character. And now because of this, because he decided to throw a fit over a racing incident, he may have just cost his team a chance to make the round of 8 and maybe further on to make a possible title run. Hamlin will probably make sure Byron doesn't make it to the round of 4, even if the point penalty doesn't. Say what you want, but Denny has made good on his promises this year with Chastain. Maybe it didn't end how he wanted to, but he still got Ross back. So now Byron has to not only worry about points penalties, but Hamlin's eventual payback, and all of this over an incident that I really don't think was remotely worth it. But what do you guys think? What do you hope NASCAR does with the safety concerns, and do you think William Byron deserves a penalty after yesterday? Tell me what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter and TikTok, and I hope you guys have a great day.